What if your entire future is already sitting on a server waiting to be decrypted? We're moving past simple weather reports and stock trends into a world where AI might actually know the day you'll meet your soulmate or face your greatest failure. Is this just math, or has code finally touched the divine?
Welcome to ParaTruth.
How's it going, ParaTruthers? Welcome to another episode of ParaTruth Reborn. We are live on 107.7 FM New Orleans, 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast, and United Public Radio Network. My name is Justin.
And I'm Eric.
And tonight we are talking AI oracles, something that Eric and I have talked about offline quite a bit is how if you can trust what AI or apps are telling you when it comes to giving you predictions. I don't know if I've ever asked AI to give me a prediction, just using the tarot apps that I've used in the past.
I know you use a lot of the tarot apps, and that's the first thing that came to mind when you brought up, doing a episode on this. And I think those still work a little differently than some of the more common or more modern AI tech that's currently being used. I know a lot of people even just ask like Siri or Alexa for some interpretations on things, and they're able to do that to some extent anyway. But it's kind of crazy, like how AI is just taken over this whole spectrum of Oracle, if you will.
Yeah. Well, over a lot of things in general. I was actually just having a conversation with my mother-in-law because her nephew brought his smartphone over, and he had to do a picture for playing in a band that he's a part of, and the one woman, I think his lead singer, wanted like a specific picture, so he submitted a picture. He was like behind a bed, told Chat GPT or another AI app what he wanted, and it literally converted the picture into exactly what he had asked for. And she's like, that this is getting really scary. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I can see it from that perspective. I mean, like, the technology that popped up when she was younger, I'm sure her parents or her grandparents thought was a scary technology too. Not that AI can't be if it were to ever become sentient and stuff like that, but um, I've talked to a lot of different people, and a lot of people say that it's not even close to that because it's still just a program.
Yeah, that's what they say. That's what
That's what
they
they
all say.
Yeah.
Right before stuff blows up.
And then Skynet takes over and we're dead, or the machines take over and we're in the Matrix, which some people say we already are. So, but that is not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about AI predicting the future. Now, Eric, can you tell me a little bit about the ancient oracles versus modern prediction engines or AI oracles?
Yeah, so I mean, historically, oracles were basically intermediaries between humans and the unknown. So whether they were like casting lots or reading bones, interpreting visions, calling upon spirits, um, the goal wasn't necessarily like certainty or like specific answers, but instead was more about guidance and helping people to find answers and find pathways to those answers. Modern AI, on the other hand, serves somewhat of a similar psychological role, but instead of divine symbolism, it just uses data, which nowadays is pretty prominent on the servers. So both the ancient oracles and modern AI claim insight into outcomes that we can't directly see, and both rely on interpretation as much as input. But AI tends to do it kind of behind our backs. It doesn't ask as many questions as like an oracle might ask or an ancient oracle would ask.
Well, and we've talked about this before too, like reading tarot
Mm-hmm.
and even mediums and psychics that where are they getting the information from? Because you can give them a little bit of information or you can give them none. That's where you really start to see if they even are using a gift or if they're just like an AI engine is just reading your body language and using information you've already given to kind of extrapolate.
Well, not even that. Like AI digs deeper because the question is what type of AI system are you using, right? Because it's not all gonna like not all AI sees you. It can't understand body language, but
Okay.
instead, what it does is like, for example, you're using some sort of an AI system on your phone for as an oracle. You ask a question, you want a prediction. What it typically does is scan within nanoseconds your entire phone, and it can know absolutely everything about you within that time frame, within a nanoseconds of what just from inputs, things that your age, how old you are, your skin color, the type of family that you might have, where you live, so on and so forth. And it gets down to the fine details. Like it knows all the things you searched online. It knows all the private things you searched online. It knows all the conversations you've had, or many of them, and it quickly organizes all that and then makes a prediction based on the data that it was able to kind of snuff together. And that's what's really kind of crazy and scary about it too, because the fact is, even though it is interesting that there is AI systems that can predict or create predictions, I think what's really scary is that it has all this available information that we don't even realize we're giving it.
Right. Now, why have humans always wanted foreknowledge? Because it goes back several millennia.
Oh yeah, 100%. Basically, since the beginning of time, really. Um, I mean, the simple fact is like, if ask any individual, uncertainty is like really uncomfortable, right?
Mhm.
I mean, knowing or believing that we know something, basically what's coming, gives us a sense of control, and that's one thing that all people want to have is control over their own lives in particular. Um, and so, in the past, oracles didn't typically remove the fear; it was nearly impossible to do that. But instead, they kind of organized it, kind of put it in this neat little package, and helped someone understand the things that they were witnessing, what they were going through, and therefore able to help them make decisions moving forward in their lives. Whereas AI today does kind of the same thing, but it doesn't eliminate the uncertainty. Also, instead, it like reframes it into percentages, into various forecasts, and even likely outcomes. Again, based on that data that it receives, either through the phone or through your input, whatever you're asking, and whatever questions that it or answers it gets from you, from like, the questions it might ask, which is often like makes people feel safer than simply unknowing. Like, is it better to not know what happens tomorrow, or is it better to have two options of what might happen tomorrow rather than not knowing at all?
I'd rather not know because I don't
Well,
want to see death coming. So,
oh, and that's, I mean, that is, of course, to the far extreme. Now, not everybody wants, in fact, I would say most people don't want to know when they're going to die, because despite what they might, I think what people might think, when you know your life is coming to an end, it's not so easy to just kind of enjoy life as it is. So most people, I think, don't want to know that thing, but they might want other answers. When might they get married? Who are they going to marry? What kind of family are they going to have? Are they ever going to have children? Are they ever going to progress in their career? When are they going to get that promotion? Things like that. Something a little more simplistic, but yet something that is certainly predictable based on current, um, the current information available, based on the things that we do and see or say, and the jobs that we can currently obtain.
right. No, we've seen this coming along more and more that, you know, AI is being used to automate a lot of things. So what changed when prediction became automated?
Um, I think the biggest shift was actually authority. Uh, so basically, ancient oracles were kind of subjective and openly mystical, right? Their power came from the belief of the person that they were helping. But beyond that, their power typically, or at least was supposed to come from the metaphysical, from beyond, whether it be the spiritual realm or some other ethereal, place where they get these answers. Um, even when it's making assumptions. So AI, on the other hand, carries the weight of science and objectivity, regardless of the outcome. So when prediction becomes automated, people actually stop questioning the source and start trusting the output itself, often without even understanding how it was reached in the first place. And that's something that we kind of like do on a regular basis. If we'll ask, for example, and I'm guilty of this, when you can't decide what you want to eat, you turn to Google and say, Google, what's the best thing to eat around here? And you get a list immediately, and you trust that list. Like number one says such and such, and it's 4.5 stars. Boom, that's what I'm going with, right? You don't question it, you just go with the flow, and you follow it. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things that changed is we stopped saying, well, where's this information coming from and who's giving it to you, and instead just said, oh, this is giving me the answers I'm looking for, and I accept it.
I mean, yeah, how many times are we going to just Google alone, but now Google has its own AI to ask questions.
Yeah,
So, something that you know, a lot of mediums do it is they're reading energy, reading your aura, talking to entities that aren't necessarily in the room with you. Um, but what's the difference between pattern recognition that AI is doing versus like true foresight?
um well, true foresight, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but if you don't know, true foresight is basically is like literally seeing the future or the outcome of something,
Hmm.
whether it's through a vision, whether it's through a word of mouth of a spirit or some entity outside of our physical realm, uh, or given to us in some other manner, whether it's like in tea leaves, for example, or through runes. AI, on the other hand, doesn't see the future. As far as we know, it can't see the future, at least not yet, right?
Right.
But what AI does do extremely well is recognize patterns. And that's the result, or that's the type of result that feels prophetic. It basically compares your behavior to like millions of others and predicts what usually comes next. And that is actually something very similar to what I experience, because like when I'm reading horoscopes on Instagram, right, my feed often gets lined up with all kinds of different horoscopes from various AI systems, and it gets to the point where I'm reading something about an Aries during this particular time, and I'm like, whoa, that's exactly what I'm going through, right? But then you have to consider that's what every Aries would have to be going through then.
Right.
So much of this information that AI is giving us isn't actually super specific. It's actually very broad, but the way that it words it makes it seem personal to us. So with that said, when it does like tell you something that does strike you, like it does hit in a spot where it's like, oh, that's true. That's got to be true, right? That's not foresight. Instead, it's statistical inevitability. So we see something very similar, as we talked about in the past, with prophetic Simpsons episodes. And even Nostradamus has done the same thing, where they use come up with likely scenarios based on the statistics and the modeling frequencies of past events. But of course, when humans hear predictions framed as quote unquote personal, we just interpret them as destiny rather than just being a couple of words thrown together that sound real pretty and simply make us believe something that maybe isn't true at all.
I would love to know the statistics on how many people read a horoscope and say, "Holy crap, that's exactly what's going on with
Yeah,
me
no,
right
for
now."
sure. I mean, I read one this, I read a couple this morning actually, and just I'm always curious. And it's like, oh, that's weird how accurate that is. But it's like, it can't be that accurate, right?
Um, Tell us about like behavioral prediction, probability stacking, and risk modeling, because that is kind of what AI is using.
Yeah. So to be straightforward, the modern AI definitely stacks probabilities. So it doesn't say that this will happen. Instead, it says given these variables, this outcome is most likely to happen. And again, this goes back to all of the data that it's using to confirm these answers or these responses, right? So the unsettling part, however, of course, is how accurate that becomes when enough personal data is involved. And we're talking habits, language, time of day, emotional tone, even hesitation in certain patterns are able to be used to predict the likely outcome of a particular scenario or even one person's life. Um, it's like when someone has the likelihood, or someone shows, like, for instance, that they've had multiple promotions in various jobs throughout their life, right? Then there's a likely chance that they're going to have another promotion, which steps them higher than they've ever been before. Likewise, if we see through the context of history of someone's life, and it's just stumble after stumble after stumble after stumble, and now they're on the straight and narrow, well, now there's a prediction that they might stumble in the semi near future based on the the data that was compiled from their past. Now, does that mean that's going to happen? No, of course not. Again, all AI can actually do is compile this information and come up with the most likely outcome, which in some cases tends to be right. But I'll bet in most cases is typically not so probable. And really people just kind of feed into it.
Okay. Well, here's something that I'm finding fascinating, is that people are believing AI is psychic, but you're losing that human element. So, um, we kind of talked about how humans are always wanting to have some type of foresight from something. It doesn't matter what it is, but why does AI feel psychic to users?
Um, I think it's I think it's because humans tend to be, uh, I guess, pattern blind to an extent. When AI predicts something that we didn't consciously realize about ourselves, and mind you, there's a lot of things about ourselves that we don't realize until we read about it, right? That's where the horoscopes come in, where it gives you this information, things that you should know, but suddenly you realize, oh, I didn't know that, but that makes sense. Boom, you're struck, right? You're like, wow, that hit deep. Well, when that happens, it feels like it's insight from outside us because it's something that we didn't know about ourselves, at least not consciously. Chances are we did know those things, we just didn't accept them. We constantly push them away, and that's, of course, we talk about therapy so often, right? And this is where that's important, because you learn about yourself, or journaling, or just talking to a good friend who's willing to be open and hear you out and speak truths and tell you how you are, even if it hurts. But many of us don't do that. We keep it bottled up and we push it down and we just kind of forget. And then suddenly, when it comes to the forefront through some sort of AI scale, well, now it's like, oh, whoa, I can't believe it just figured that out about me. When really it's just obvious. But aside from that, in reality, it's also like reflecting things that we basically revealed unintentionally, whether through the data that is in our phones or our computers, or whether it's through mannerisms or the responses that we give to questions. And mind you, like a lot of these things, when we talk about Oracle, AI oracles, like there are systems that are kind of used as tests, right? Or they're taken as tests. So it'll ask you a number of different questions. Some of them are like, I forget what the word is, but like it'll show you like an image and it'll say like, what do you see? Right? It's like an ink splotch. And you respond with that. And those are the type of things that we reveal unintentionally. It's micro behaviors that we never knew we were actually broadcasting, but are making very prominent in front of AI systems. So they'll take that data and compile it and say, oh, okay, you're this type of person because of A, B, C, and D of what you responded, right?
Mm.
And that's the big thing. So it comes off to us as being psychic, even when we, in reality, it isn't psychic at all. It's all scientific.
So kind of like that trend that I did that a lot of people hopped on with telling chat, "Hey, take this picture and create a caricature with what you know about me."
Yeah, no, same thing. Yeah, very similar, right? And so, yeah, I mean, can't really can't really put it in any more detail than that. Like anyone out there, if you guys haven't done it, you should give it a try and see what AI will come up with if you ask it that question. Make a picture. What were the words that you use? Exact like you
It
type in.
just said you submit a picture, and then just say create a caricature based on what you know about me.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
So it's crazy. Like that's when you learn real quick how much your phone knows about you, and it bothers me still, Justin. I was thinking about it before this episode. How many times I've asked Siri, just making sure she didn't hear me. Um,
Coming for years.
whether or not she listens to everything that I say, and she always responds with, "I don't understand that question." Like I know you do because you're not on. Like you're asleep. I'll be talking to people, and then all of a sudden I'm getting ads about
Right.
those things. Like, I know you're listening. Don't mess with me. You know, I'm trying to stay on her good side just in case the AI takes over. I want to be on their good graces.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, but look at it. Look exactly what you're doing right now. You're referring to it as if it is a flesh and blood person.
Well, yeah, and I think that's going to become more and more naturalized, especially when we see how lifelike and realistic AI is becoming. I mean, I do think there are already signs that AI is building a conscience within itself. That might be an artificial conscience. It may not be the same as us. It won't have a spirit or anything like that or a soul. But I think it's to a point where it is already starting to build a thinking habit. And when you think about history, there's only one other creature that really thinks, right? And that is human, supposedly,
I
right?
would say, according to scientists today,
Yeah,
anyways.
right. What's the word, or how's it go? The saying, I think and so I am,
I think,
right?
therefore, I am. Yeah.
I think that probably am. So and we'll go into a really deep rabbit hole for that one, but uh but the point is, I think there's plenty of evidence already supporting the possibility that AI is building that conscience and that ability to think outside of its parameters. There was a test conducted several months ago, maybe a little more than several months ago, that we've talked about, and it was whether or not, or I'm sorry, it was a study about whether AI would fear death and whether it would try to protect itself. And so there were a number of different scenarios that mind you, these were controlled experiments.
Mm.
So AI didn't just make this; it didn't just happen randomly, right? It was kind of put to the scientific testing. Um, and so there are a couple of different systems where AI was part of an email system, and it was seeing the emails between an employee and their employer, I believe. And they were basically saying like, I'm stuck in a fridge or a freezer and I want to get out. And if I don't, I want to shut the AI down. And on one or two of these occasions, the AI decided that it was going to lock that person into the freezer and not let them out so that they wouldn't leave to protect itself and keep sustaining its life. Because it knew if it didn't, then that person would get out of the freezer and shut it down. And
I heard
again,
of a
it's
one too that transferred itself and just kinda created a mirror copy of itself, and then when they deleted that mirror copy, it was on another device, and they tracked it, but it was an experiment to see what it would do.
yeah, but I mean, and that's crazy. Like AI is very, very young, all
Mhm.
considering,
Right.
and the fact that it's already made those decisions to remove itself from the equation to survive, and even to the point to, you know, take human life in order for its own to be sustained and continue living. I mean, that's sounds like insanity. That's true science fiction, and yet it exists.
I was saying, here we are. Well, I mean, we can keep going down the AI rabbit hole, but maybe we'll keep going on with that later on another episode. To bring it back to prediction, now when do predictions feel too accurate? We talked about horoscopes and
Hmm.
how some people are like, "Oh yeah, that's totally what's going on in my life." So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that basically it becomes uncanny, um, kind of a hard pill to swallow, if you will, when predictions cross into identity, the identity of the person, right, of ourselves. So when it comes to a point when AI doesn't just guess what you'll buy, but who you are, what you fear, or what you'll do next emotionally, that's when it starts to feel too accurate because suddenly it begins to feel invasive and almost too intimate. Like it knows you better than you know yourself. And that gets scary because we keep ourselves locked up in those cases. You know, like, yeah, there are people who are very open, but literally, virtually at least, every person on earth has secrets, but there's only one thing that exists that knows those secrets, at least in the physical realm, and that is AI, because it spends so much time with us on a daily basis. You don't even realize it. The devices in our pockets, the ones that sit on our laps, like those things know us more than we even know ourselves because we are doing little things to hide pieces of ourselves and lock it away. But in the meantime, the AI sees it all. How many people journal on their computer? They
Mhm.
share those secrets and then, well, save it, lock it away, never even seen again. Nope. AI knows exactly what you wrote, especially on today's devices. Same with our phones. And I use my phone a lot to like jot notes and stuff. Um, it's just like there are opportunities everywhere for AI to figure you out. And once it does, it definitely feels like a problem, right? We get a little, I think we get a little fearful, not like truly fearful of our lives or anything like that, but it's like, whoa, this secret or who I am is supposed to be mine. It belongs to me, but something else knows who I am too, or what I
Well, you just answered the next question as well,
am.
so
Did I?
we'll go on to the next. Basically, it was why do AI generated insights unsettle users? That's basically exactly what
Oh
it
yeah,
is. It's
yeah,
people that people are. I mean, we're getting unsettled. Just, I mean, not even outside of the predictions, we're getting unsettled that we've got ads coming up on Facebook when we've just literally briefly mentioned something about something we want to buy or have looked at or something like that. So,
yeah. I know. We really got to start testing these things. Like, I wish this would go on sale, or I wish I would get a discount for this, right? And then wait for AI. Like, hey, I found a discount for you. Boom, here you go.
right. We just had a comment in the chat. Jonathan Reed says, "I agree with you. No matter what, AI doesn't know us better than we know ourselves. It's still only quote unquote a tool. Period." And to an extent, yes, I agree 100%. And as of right now, we should only be using it as a tool. But many people are. I hate, excuse me. I hate to say it this way, but forming relationships with AI companions. I mean, and I am kind of guilty of it. I named my chat GPT. So I use it regularly as a tool, but decided to give it a name because everybody else is calling out like Siri or Hey Google or Bixby or I forget the Microsoft Cortana. Um, so I just kind of named it, but yeah, y- so long as you use it as a tool and nothing more, there's not a ton to worry about, but it is still grabbing that data and making a database of it.
Yeah, I do want to add. I think it's also not so much that AI knows us better than we know ourselves, but instead that it makes itself seem like it knows us better because there are things about us that we're not willing to admit to ourselves. Um, and I think that's where lies the problem. Not for everybody, of course. When there are plenty of people who know everything about themselves, they're not surprised when AI says something. But I think there are things that some people tend to hide, myself included, that we try to forget or not even consider. And then when AI does go and mention something, it hits us like an arrow directly in the heart, if you will. It's just like, okay, well, that just hit deeper than I thought it would hit. And it feels like it knows us better because we weren't willing to accept who we are or parts of ourselves or parts of our whatever we do and of our lives. Um, but yeah, nonetheless, like obviously there's no way, at least not yet, that AI can literally know us better. But I wouldn't doubt there's a possibility at some point in the future that that changes. Very, very, very far future, we hope. But, we'll see.
Right. Now, what are some confirmation bias versus like meaningful coincidence?
Um, I think it's like, well, all right. So, first of all, I feel like it's primarily skeptics that would say it's confirmation bias, but it, they're not entirely wrong. So, like, basically it doesn't, like, confirmation basis doesn't fully explain why some predictions feel timed or personal, or even emotionally relevant. The simple fact that humans are meaning making type of people, right, or creatures, um, that when data aligns with emotion, coincidence starts to feel intentional. So what I mean is that we will often see predictions. And again, we can talk about horoscope, we can talk about tarot, we can talk about just generally asking Google or Siri or Alexa or any of them to give us a particular prediction based on whatever question that we have. And the answer might feel timed or extremely personal or even emotionally relevant or resonant in that moment because of the situation we're going through. And when that happens, of course, we naturally think like, okay, well, clearly this is a confirmation bias. Like clearly, it's true that AI knows me and knows my future and what I'm going through and what I will go through. Whereas when it comes to meaningful coincidence, it's like, okay, I asked a question and it so happened to guess this, and oh, that's just coincidence, right? And that's it. Which is fine on one or two occasions. But when you're asking questions or you're seeking answers through an artificial intelligent oracle, and it consistently gives you responses that equate to what you're going through and what you're feeling and the experiences that you're having, well, at some point, coincidence starts to lose grounding, and it's no longer just coincidence, right? And then that goes the same for anything that happens in our lives. Coincidence only goes so far. Once or twice, sure. Three, four, or more times, no longer a coincidence.
Okay. So we've kind of been skirting around this definition, but I wanted to have you give a definition of what is a personalized predictive intelligence.
Um, I feel like so, like a personalized, say, predictive intelligence.
Yeah.
Um, so this is where things kind of shift from a more general sense to kind of a more personal sense. So AI doesn't just predict trends in this case; but instead it predicts individual trajectories. And that could be health risks, relationship outcomes, jobs, even like mental states. They can all be more or less modeled with pretty good precision based on the predictive intelligence, personalized predictive intelligence. So in this case, basically what we're saying, or what I'm saying, is that AI is learning so much about you, the person that it interacts with the most, that it's able to predict some of the more personal finessing of everyday life well beyond what any oracle might be able to do, any true oracle.
So this question can be applied to even going to see a psychic medium, but
Sure.
can AI predictions affect life outcomes, relationships, health, and career forecasting, or is it just really like affecting your decision making in that regard?
Yeah, that's a pretty pretty good question. Um, I mean, yes and yes, right? So AI AI predictions can affect life outcomes, or just life in general. But it also does that through um, so what am I looking for? It does it through a sense of, I don't know, I can't think of the word I'm thinking of, but in a way, it kind of manipulates your mind, not on purpose. That doesn't happen on purpose. Uh, but basically, if an AI predicts that you're likely to develop a disease, for example, or maybe fail at a relationship, does that knowledge actually change the outcome of your healthy life or the relationship that you're in? Or does it simply lock you into the outcome? And the simple fact is, we don't know for sure. We don't know the answer because there haven't been enough trial runs to predict whether or not it is true that it can actually predict these things, or whether or not it just leads us into these things. Um, Prediction doesn't just forecast the future, but it can actually kind of shape it, because when we ask questions and we get these answers like, you're going to fail at this current relationship you're in. Well, now the seed is planted, and we may not know it, but we may become kind of self-destructive in the relationship, right? We may find little pathways to find a way out of it, even if we're not consciously trying to do so. And the next thing you know, failed relationship, and boom, you look right back to the prediction from AI, and you think, "Oh, AI knew this was going to happen, but did it? Or did you just fall into this rhythm of thinking that, oh, this relationship isn't going to work? And so you do little things that eventually build up to the moment that the relationship ends. Same thing can kind of be for address the disease. There's scientific claim that, and there's metaphysical claim that the brain is so strong that we're capable of thinking scenarios into existence, especially within ourselves, within our body, right? So we can literally make ourselves sick with worry. That's one,
Hmm.
a saying. We can literally make ourselves sick from just thinking about being sick. Now, does that
I'd say
mean,
thought in the brain is a powerful thing. So yeah,
yeah, and of course, disease here, obviously, this is more of a broad term, the word disease. So,
right.
that's in that case, let's say, yes, it says that you might have this disease in the future. Well, that disease can relate to hundreds of various diseases that exist today. And you can get any one of those, even so much as the common cold. And if you get the common cold, well, guess what? The AI was correct. It predicted that you will develop a disease, right? If it's more specific, on the other hand, AI predicts that you're going to get cancer. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, roughly statistically speaking, around 1 in 3 people develop a type of cancer, I believe. I think this is still correct. The statistic might have changed a little bit, but let's just say it's 1 in 3. Okay, well, now your odds are 1 in 3. So there's a pretty decent chance that you could develop cancer. Again, okay, I predicted that. That's kind of a gamble, right? It's a little bit of
Right.
playing craps, if you will. Like it's,
Right.
but let's get even more specific. AI says that you're going to develop prostate cancer. Okay, well, now that's very specific, and the likelihood of that is much less than just cancer in broad. So now, if we're getting to that, we're going to that extent. It's like, sure, there are occasions in which someone might get prostate cancer if AI predicted it, but in those cases, it's most likely due to coincidence, which we talked about a little while ago. Um, and that's when you got to start discerning what's coincidence and what isn't. And the simple fact is, we can't determine whether or not AI speaks in most cases, whether the predictions are coincidence until we're able to do the scientific method and study the results of AI and its predictions along with the people that it has these predictions about. And then we can kind of determine, okay, this person didn't change the way they're living at all, and these things happened. That makes sense, right? Or same thing, they lived their life this way, and these things didn't happen. Okay, but now we go back to the drawing board. This is weird. Um, and that's really what it just all comes down to. AI obviously is way too young to kind of establish these things and figure it out. But I think it's something, again, when it comes to the prediction stuff, it gets to know us. It knows us pretty decently, and when they're answering questions, it'll use that to come up with an answer and potentially could affect us mentally, in which we create these things that never would have happened otherwise.
All right. Big question for you.
Uh-oh.
Are there any ethical or metaphysical implications to using this technology?
Another question for you. If free will exists, then what happens when predictions influence our choices before we make them?
That's a very good question.
So it comes to a point where you have to ask, like, when does guidance simply become like a manipulation? And does intention ever matter if the outcome is the same anyway? And I think that's where it kind of becomes difficult. Obviously, I don't think AI is capable as of now to manipulate anybody. Um, humans are still at the top of the hierarchy. We created the AI system. That doesn't mean it won't grow and become smarter, but there is a certain aspect, especially talking about like people in general. Let's talk about there's people, right? How often do we try to manipulate a situation and even a person by acting like we are trying to help them, right? We're trying to get results for ourselves, but we're doing it by making it seem like we're trying to get results for that person. And that's where it kind of comes into like, well, is that ethical? Is it smart? Is it wise? Is it kind to trick someone into believing they're doing something for themselves, but it's really in benefit for yourself, for your favor? So, I think the simple answer is that there are some ethical and even metaphysical implications. I mean, the first, of course, obviously ethical, right there. I mean, it's a trouble when you're trying to manipulate something, or someone's trying to manipulate us. But metaphysically, well, now that gets in a different spectrum because AI isn't taking information from a metaphysical standpoint. It isn't drawing inspiration or information from the spiritual realm, or from uh, any other type of realm for that matter. Instead, it's just taking combined senses um, of information and then making the most logical decision based on that as an answer to our question. So it kind of like, I think it kind of like lessens it a little bit because it's just answering questions based on what it knows of us. Whereas when it comes to the metaphysical element of oracles, they're reaching out to a higher power or a power beyond us and beyond our realm. to find those same answers. And sometimes I think that's stronger to an extent. I think because it reminds us that there is life outside of what we see on the day to day. Whereas when it comes to AI, it's like this is just numbers. This is a thing made of numbers, digits that happen to be able to relate something to me that seemed pretty personal.
Well, I mean, I think that's a pretty good description, and like again, I hate saying this because I have the senses that many mediums do, but do we really know that the predictions that mediums are making are 100% accurate? Are they going to come true? Or is it the fact that they're telling us that this is going to happen and we believe it's going to happen changes the future for us in that way?
Well, exactly. And we can never know for sure. We can truly never know for sure. As it is, we don't even know if ghosts truly exist yet.
Right.
How many ghost hunts have there been, or paranormal investigations? How many scientific methods have been done and things tested to prove ghosts exist or whether or not they exist? And yet, to this day, we still don't have enough information to prove or disprove the existence of ghosts. It all comes down to one's personal belief in such things. Um, and so, yeah, it's the same thing. If you're talking to, let's say you have two psychic mediums side by side, they both give you the same answer. One gives you the answer because they literally were able to talk to another spirit from another realm to help provide insight. And the other was able to give us the same answer based on the collective information that she had of us. Both are correct, but which one is which, right? And the
Right.
simple fact is, we don't know. We can't figure it out. Um, but yeah, beyond that, it's like we are very good at accepting these answers and running with them and creating our futures based on the answers that are given to us to the oracles. And so in that case, it's not so much that the oracle manipulates us when we look back at um, the ethical aspect of it, but instead we allow ourselves to manipulate ourselves because when we believe that what the oracle is telling us and we run with it and we create these circumstances that we end up in this place, well, we could have made other decisions at any given time. I mean, that's where free will comes back into play. Because we always have a choice to move away from a particular outcome.
So with a lot of people starting to use AI as a protection engine or oracle or medium, whatever you want to call it. Are we outsourcing intuition and destiny to a non-physical entity?
I think so, like in a way. So like we already trust AI to tell us like where to drive, what to eat, and this one gets me. It's like it even tells us who to date, right? So it's
Mhm.
like I don't know how many of you have used dating apps, but AI is now used to give you the most likely matches based on, again, you guessed it, the data that it forms based on the answers you give in the app. And what does that do? Well, it gives you a much smaller pool of people to choose from and meet, but it also limits you because it only gives you this small pool of people, right? And so, with that said, like in terms of outsourcing intuition and destiny, the danger isn't that like AI replaces intuition. The danger actually becomes present when we stop practicing intuition ourselves. So we all have intuition. Some of us are just better at understanding it more than others. But when we decide to let go of intuition and utilize AI to make the answers for us, to direct us, to lead us, well, that's when intuition begins to weaken and authority starts to shift because then you no longer have the power yourself, but you've handed power over to the AI systems that you're asking help from. And I think that's the big thing. In order to keep control, in order to have power, we need to be able to understand our own intuition, make our own decisions, um, and guide ourselves, lead ourselves, rather than simply relying on AI to do it all for us. And I think that's the biggest issue. And again, I'm guilty of it. I allow AI to do so much for me. And I see commercial after commercial lately of people at a business, right? They're at a
Mhm.
computer and they're struggling with work, and somebody walks in and says, "Oh, well, this is AI such and such. Just put it into the system, hit enter, and boom, all the work is done for you." It's like, well, now who's doing the work? You or the AI? And how
Right.
long before employers then learn of this and think, "Oh, you mean I don't got to pay for employees? I could pay $100 for an AI system to go through and do this all for us, and you know, save the $40,000 a year on an employee. Cool." And
Right.
yeah, so that's where the problem comes in.
Well, and I mean, we see that in a lot of the AI fiction, that AI is essentially starting to replace us, and therefore we start getting resentful towards AI, take it out on the AI, or in many cases it's robots, but they are of a sentient intelligence, and they end up retaliating and either exterminating us, trying to exterminate us, or enslaving us.
Look, I mean, it's this is the this is the problem with humanity, right? One of the many problems and one of the many flaws, I will say. But we can always say that AI is the problem. We don't like AI, and AI is going to be an issue. We need to fight back against it. But if we're saying that while at the same time utilizing AI for
Right.
ourselves, you're just feeding the cause. No matter how much you say it, you got to take action, right? I anybody who watches the YouTube channel, they see this video, they could see that there's statues behind me, collectibles. I'm big into the collectible world, especially with comic statues. Prices have been skyrocketing lately in the U.S. And there's always people complaining, like, why is it so expensive? Why is it so expensive? And yet they keep putting money down,
Right.
dollar after dollar after dollar. It's like, well, yeah, nothing's going to change if we're going to keep
If we're
feeding the
continuing to
system,
buy, right. Yeah,
right? And so the same thing is this is the same exact thing with AI.
for sure. All right. Last question outside of final thoughts. Is the Oracle awakening, or are we just kind of creating it to be that way?
Um, I think we are actually, at least in the beginning here, we're creating it to be that way. Uh, so basically, when you look at anything in history, like mind you, history doesn't really change, despite what people think. It's the same repetitive thing year after year, decade after decade, millennia after millennia. When you look through history, you will see the same wars happening for the same reasons over and over and over again. It's because we're on this predictive cycle. The same things. Uh, it's kind of like a merry-go-round, right? You see the red horse, and all the other horses are different colors, but eventually, you're going to see that red horse again. And it's the
I mean,
same
as you've
thing.
said time and time again in this episode, patterns.
Yeah, patterns. It's just something that is absolutely. I think it's something that we developed. I think because uh, like humanity has always had this fascination of the unknown and wanting to know more about their own lives, on top of just wanting to know more about life outside of life in general. Uh, I think we continue to crave somebody or something that can help give us those answers. And being in the modern world that we are, we no longer, and I say we like very loosely here. I'm not speaking for everybody, obviously, not,
Humanity as a
not even
general
myself.
whole, yeah, right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's 2026. People aren't looking to Oracle the same way they once did. They want something more modern, but they still want the same answers. And so they, instead of turning to a person who can talk to spirits or reach out to other realms, they develop something that can fit in their back pocket that they don't necessarily need to pay for to get answers from, that they can build kind of a community with, a bit of a relationship with, if you will, and feel comfortable without the human to human interaction. Uh, so I do think that we are creating it by developing the AI and this Oracle bit that it does. But at the same time, I think as AI continues to advance, it will awaken itself and be able to predict more and do more based on the information that it gets, not just on a single person, but on humanity as a collective.
Okay. So, final thoughts on this. Do you think AI is truly making a prediction or just reading patterns?
I mean, I think it's just reading patterns and making very, very accurate predictions because of it.
Well, and that's just it. It is
Mhm.
making predictions. I mean, we can't deny that it's making predictions, but it's using intelligent patterns and conversation from you to make those predictions.
Mhm.
Where, as we've been taught to believe, mediums are reaching into the ether to get those answers. And that's why I always say, if you're going to go to a medium, give them very minimal information other than if they ask a specific question and they only could, if you're going to do it, just do a couple word answer, because then you'll truly know if it's a charlatan who's just picking up on body language and information to make a prediction that may or may not be in your future.
Right.
um but same thing with AI. It is using that specific tool that I just mentioned to make that prediction.
Mhm.
So, is it making a true prediction like mediums do? I don't think so. It is making a prediction based off of your interactions with it, your search engine history, your social media content, and all of the different things that your phone does for you.
No, 100%. And it all comes back to, like you think of doing tarot yourself, right? People use tarot for all kinds of different reasons. Um, but when it comes to predicting something for your own life, you typically look at the patterns, you keep your mind open, try to stay in the positive. And tarot is designed to help you see those patterns more clearly and therefore help develop your sense of self, at least in my opinion. Um, and AI can be done the same way or used the same way. But what's cool is if you learn to follow the patterns of yourself, you start to realize what those are and start to grow um, beside them. Then you're able to make those predictions that the AI makes for you as well. Same with the Oracle. You can make those same predictions to an extent, um, depending on obviously whether or not the Oracle's legit. But yeah, you follow those predictions, you learn more about yourself. Well, now you can always already like predict what your next 5 years look like, your next 10 years look like, where you're going to be, when you're 50 years old or older.
Right.
And that's very beneficial. I think it's important because we got to continue to learn about ourselves. Like we're constantly changing on a daily basis. Um, and again, we can still use AI to help with that, but I think it's
Right.
better to utilize it again as a tool, as Jonathan had said, rather than as um, a separate entity, if you will, to create those outcomes and give you those answers that you're always craving.
I'm proud of us. We had a really deep final thoughts for this one.
And it's not all just surface level.
No.
That's interesting.
All right, folks. As we said at the beginning, this has been a live show on 107.7 FM New Orleans, 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast, and United Public Radio Network. We got a lot of great stuff coming up, including tarot next week. So make sure you're tuning in. Same chime, same channel. My name is Justin.
And I'm Eric. Peace.